in a row. So let me refresh the Restream chat so that I can see all of the chats from the viewers at home and make sure that we're live. And let's jump on in. Let's dive on into it. First up, Innovation Lab, Magento Innovation Labs. I saw this tweet yesterday. Karen Baker, okay, I'll call it. These results have more to do with employee count than product popularity. So a little bit of no context. I don't have the full context on this. But what I'm guessing is that these are these are the four. I'm going to talk about the top three submission. I'm guessing these are the finalists in the Magento Innovation Lab. And let me see if I have a link to the Innovation Lab thing. No, I don't have that handy. These are hashtags. So I'm assuming that they awarded the winner based on tweets for hashtags. That may or may not be true at all. I don't know. It might have been some other voting process. But there was a little... I think anyways, without getting too much into the controversy, I want to just review the three. I want to just review these three submissions. So let me pull that up. I did a tweet here. Hopefully this is not going to overload my system because I've got these little GIFs that are going to play, and sometimes video overloads my system when I'm doing the live streaming. But anyways, okay, so first up, PWA scan from webcall. So this one, and I think I'm going to just not play this video because it might break my whole thing. But anyways, so basically this one uses camera capabilities in PWA to allow people to scan a barcode and check out within a store, which is cool. Demonstrates PWA functionality, and possibly so I'll do a quick overview of the three, and then I'll do sort of a comparison. So then this next one, Pepper, is a literal robot. Now I don't know exactly how, from Snowdog, I don't know exactly how they. Again, I'm coming to this not with complete context. I don't know exactly how they did this, if they built the robot, if they bought it off the shelf and tied into some APIs, but this is pretty freaking awesome. Okay, and then this next one, head-on shopping, is an accessibility thing where you can do shopping with just eye tracking, which is really incredible from an accessibility standpoint. Actually, somebody I know, without getting too much in detail, got a condition where, sometime in the near future, they will need to use software like this based on, a medical condition. And I've seen documentaries and heard a podcast with somebody in a similar state. So this is really incredible and a cool use of technology. Okay, so I guess what I want to do, I want to weigh in on like the which one is the best kind of a thing. So here's so what's powerful about this one. So the robot is a little more bleeding edge. I think that the robot is probably a cooler innovation, and a more impressive innovation. I mean, it's talking back. If you watch the demo, and by the way, all these demo videos are up on the Magento Innovation Lab page, but if you watch the demo, she's talking to the robot, asking about categories. The robot's talking back to her. It's pretty incredible. The PWA scan probably has more economic potential for a broader swath of the market, right? Anyone with a store can deploy this, pretty easily. And so this one might, like, if you were to say, hey, which one of these is going to generate more sales? I'd say this one probably has more potential, right? But is this Innovation Lab about what's going to generate more sales, or is it about what's the more interesting innovation? If it's about what's the more interesting innovation, we got to give it to Pepper, the e-com robot. I mean, that's just That's just super neat. I think it also has wheels. It's like autonomous wheels. Like it can move around, I believe. And I mean, the team at Snow Dog is just out of control. They've done some really interesting stuff in recent years. They also did the Amazon, like the Amazon, similar to the Amazon Dash button. They did that for Magento. So really impressive, the Snow Dog team. And then this accessibility functionality here is really cool to see. Really interesting. I would say not quite as impressive as this, but just an awesome piece of functionality to see for accessibility, and great showcase. I believe, I want to say this is on PWA. I should probably know that. I did. It's using ARKit, so I did glance at it briefly. So it's either a native app or it's on PWA, but this one is on PWA. So anyway, super interesting Innovation Lab submissions. A little controversy on who the winner was there, but the Magento community, we always got to have a little bit of controversy. So that is my review of the Innovation Lab. Next up, I actually don't have a link for this, so I'm just going to pull up a general search result for RFP. So the topic here is streamlining RFP processes. So I was looking at a job yesterday in Commerce Hero, and it was a job where a client is looking to work with an agency. And one of the things that in general with Commerce Hero, I was expecting more as I built it. I was expecting to have more business flowing through where a client was hiring an agency. And as I saw some of those leads come through and saw them not really pan out so well, one of the things I realized was that Commerce Hero's strength isn't really so much in helping clients to find agencies to work with. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. One of which I think is that agencies have their own sales processes. That is part of what it means to have an agency, is to have a good sales process. And so, they have, people that are good at dealing with clients and walking through things. They have a higher touch process that Commerce Hero is a lower. So Commerce Hero's strength is really finding individual developers or professionals. And so I sort of moved that direction. But as I was looking at this job where a client is looking to hire an agency and then they mentioned they have an RFP, I thought to myself, I think I know how to solve that problem, the Commerce Hero for client and agency workflows, which is essentially to handle RFPs. The RFP process is something people always complain about. It tends to be a giant waste of time on both sides. Clients waste a bunch of time creating this super long RFP, and they have a bunch of stakeholders on their side they're trying to please, and it's designed by committee and all this kind of thing. And then on the agency side, they got to spend all this time trying to respond to the RFP, and they got to decide how much time is this really worth. They're probably putting tens, if not hundreds of hours into their RFP process without ever getting paid a dime. So they're really betting on how likely it is they're going to win the deal, and it's just a very inefficient process economically speaking. And I think that, I don't know if there are solutions. Software is eating the world, right? So anything that happens where people are emailing documents back and forth, is something that's ripe for disruption. It's kind of funny because we talk about, in the Magento community, in the e-commerce community, we talk about B2B, and we talk about all these, outdated companies that are doing business emailing documents back and forth. And meanwhile, we look at our own businesses. If we look at, as agencies, you look at your business, you're doing the same thing with clients. You're emailing documents back and forth for RFPs, right? So I think that if there's definitely a way to streamline that. I don't know exactly what it would look like. This is just my first sort of video on this topic where I'm kind of exploring the idea. But I think that, you could, first off, create a tool to make it easy for clients to create RFPs so that they're not working in documents and copying and pasting a bunch of text, and give them easy to use templates so that when they say we want to have X, Y, and Z, when they say, we want to have a certain level of quality assurance, right? Instead of them having to write it and sort of not write it the right way, give them 5 levels of QA, right? So they can choose, well, I want the cheapest option, right? We'll do a lot of the QA, or I want the most expensive option. They're going to do a ton of QA. This thing is going to be polished by the time we see it, right? Give them things to select from so that now when they're building this RFP, they're selecting from smart templated options. And then, of course, once the RFP is up, you want to make it easy to distribute. So have a 2-sided marketplace where people can opt into it, get notifications, people can be categorized by industry and all that kind of a thing. And so that the client can then select agencies they want to send it to based on industry and level of experience and maybe partnership status with different e-commerce platforms, and things like that. So, and then of course, then on the bidding process, this is always going to be a fundamentally high touch process because you've got high dollar projects. And so you're going to have high touch, human touch. You're going to have phone calls and in-person meetings, but facilitate that whole process by making it easy for agencies to bid, make it easy for them to, show previous work that they've done. Maybe there's a way you can handle that with NDAs in such a way that they can safely share work that they've done in a secure environment. Because a lot of times that's such a big factor in the process is what have you done in the past, right? So just take all of that and just technologify it, So I think there's something interesting there. Who knows? Maybe I'll build that one of these days, or maybe somebody will run with that, or maybe it already exists and then we can see it and start recommending it to people to help them, streamline things. All right. So that's that. Next topic. I also do not have a link prepared for this. So I am just going to look up a generic search term for developers. Let me pull this up real quick. That's interesting. First result for developers is Google developers. Developer, Twitter developers, TopTal. That's interesting. Let me see. Oliver, you can kind of cut all this stuff out if you're editing it. I should have had a link present. The other topic here is working yourself. The autocompletes are so funny. Oh, that's cool. Working yourself out of a job. So that's sort of my topic. All right, let's pull this one up. Or you know what? Let's just use the Google search. That's cool. All right, so this topic is, I was thinking about, this is on the topic of no code and on the topic of working ourselves out of a job. So, as I've been thinking more about no code and as developers, we can feel threatened by the idea of no code. We can feel threatened by the idea of, are the robots going to take our jobs eventually? Again, this is not going to if this happens, it'll be in 30, 40, 50 years. It's not like today, tomorrow, but as developers, it is our job fundamentally to work ourselves out of a job. In other words, if you're building software, your job is not to be building the same thing to solve the same problem a year from now as what you were working on today. So if you are, in the last topic, I talked about RFP processes. And if you are building that software, your job is to get to the point where you're not needed to facilitate that business process. Now, of course, there's always continuous iteration on any product, continuous improvement. So no matter what you create, there's always going to be a need to improve it to a certain point, probably, right? Like you get to a certain point where you've sort of solved the problem, and then it's on to the next problem to solve as a developer. And so it's funny because on a micro level, we are comfortable with that as developers. We're comfortable with the idea that we're working ourselves out of a job. We're solving a problem and then moving on to the next problem. And the business people, the users are using that thing that we've built and we're no longer, building it, right? We don't even like the idea of so much of maintaining existing things. We want to move on to the next problem. So if you zoom out on a macro level, if our job is to work ourselves out of a job on a macro level, that essentially means transitioning from code to no code, in the sense that if the no code tool set can get so good that business people can create their own apps without developers, then that's working ourselves out of a job on a macro level. So I just had that thought. It was weird. It was like, we understand it very well on a micro. On a macro, we go, oh no, that should never happen. What do you mean that should never happen? Our job is to work ourselves out of a job, right? So as an industry, our job is to work ourselves out of a job. Anyway, that was really the idea there. It's just a kind of a quick thought there. All right, next up. Let me just real quick do a chat test. Boom, 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 boom. I think my audio is doing better, which is nice. This restream chat is always a little finicky. It's always hard to know if it's working or not. And doesn't look like it's working. So it's entirely possible that people have been chatting with me this whole time and I didn't see it. Sweet. I gotta refresh it. It's so annoying. Okay, now I'm seeing chat messages. So if you chatted with me in the past 10 minutes, I didn't see it. Beautiful. Let me just turn on the AC because I am heating up. All right, next up, strong customer authentication. So I wish I had the tweet pulled up. I don't have it, but somebody recently told me about this new law on September 14th, 2019. New requirements for authenticating online payments were introduced in Europe as part of the Second Payment Services Directive, PSD2. We expect these to be fully enforced by December 31st, 2020. So I feel a little slow for not having been aware of this at all. Basically, it's basically two-factor authentication. It's a basically requirement of two-factor authentication for payment processing, which I think is great. You need to build authentication requires at least two of the following, right? Password, phone or token, and then a fingerprint or something like that. At least two factors. So this is neat, and I believe there's an accept. So the reason that the context in which I first heard about this is I was tweeting about the idea of an idea for a business that would create T-shirt designs for you if you tweeted a phrase out. So I could tweet a phrase, I could tag this account, and I say, design me a shirt, and they could have a credit card on file for me and just design the shirt, reply to the tweet with it, charge my card on file. I was like, that'd be magical. And then somebody replied to me and said that wouldn't be possible because it wouldn't work under strong customer authentication, right? You'd have to two-factor auth that. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So there is an exception for subscriptions. So if you have a fixed amount subscription, you can do recurring payments. And so, so this is interesting. I feel like there should be I feel like the strongest use case here is, a first-time payment with a new merchant, right? Like, I love the idea that if I'm shopping with some random merchant who I maybe don't super trust, I have to two-factor auth my purchase. I don't necessarily love it for return purchases. Like if I have to two-factor auth every time I make an Amazon purchase, that feels like it's it's going to become a pain in the butt, right? In a similar way to how the whole cookie pop-ups have become a pain in the butt. So I feel like there should be some kind of an exemption for repeat purchases where you can sort of opt out of this maybe. But I do love this for first-time purchases with merchants that you don't totally trust. So yeah, that's pretty much all to say on that. The page I've got pulled up here is a Stripe guide on strong customer authentication where they drill into the specifics. They drill into all the specifics. So if you want to dive deeper, you can check that out. All right, next up. Makerting. So this is a cool little word, little play on words from Corey Gwynn. And the tweet is Makerting, which is marketing plus making, can also be an important way to avoid building the wrong thing. By building publicly, you can develop a dialogue and trust to create the right solution. More thoughts on that below, where he links to a blog post where he fleshes it out. By the way, I recently ran across Corey because he's offering free advice to founders on the topic of, I believe, writing and a few other topics, which I thought was really neat. And I think he's all booked up on that. I think he got booked up pretty quickly. So this is a cool. I love this phrase because it's a little hard to pronounce, Makerting, but visually it's easy to see it and understand what it means. And this is a cool phrase because I think this is what I've done without having a word for it. I think this is what I've done with my businesses in recent history is that I'm building the thing in public. You're talking about it on social media. You're getting feedback from people. You're incorporating the feedback from people into the product. And it's a very virtuous cycle. And I think I've talked about this on videos in the past, but like, it's just a very virtuous cycle where you're actually marketing the product without, it's not marketing in the sense of, like marketing for the sake of marketing, like here's why my product is great. It's like, here's a new feature and things like that. Those are the types of things that people love to see, right? People don't like to see, marketing slide decks and stuff like that. People want to see the product. And so like the best marketing is like showing the actual product, and I would do like little animated GIFs of new features and things like that. And like that stuff is that's just the greatest form of marketing. It's more rare to see. It gives people sort of a closer connection to the maker because they're like, wow, I'm actually seeing this thing being made right in front of my eyes. So I think it's, if you can do that, it's just a great way to build. And there's this more and more, community. There's more and more online communities around independent makers. There's indie hackers. There's a number of sites. There's this one I saw that I can't remember the name of where you can it encourages you to ship new stuff every day. And you could so every time you ship a new feature, it goes on your profile, and then you can have a streak. So you can have a 90-day streak of shipping every day, things like that. I gotta find that site because I want to start using it. But there's lots of cool communities and tools that are coming out that are helping makers to get the word out and do stuff, and so I think this is brilliant. All right, that is all I have for today. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have yourself a fantastic Wednesday, and I'll see you tomorrow. That was so cheesy.